A seismic ruling today from the United States Supreme Court of monumental consequence, one that not only forcibly upends a core pillar of Donald Trump's economic policy, but also, in rare form for this court of late, limits the scope of Donald Trump's presidential power. Does not have the tariff authority he's asserted these past several months. Quote, the president asserts the extraordinary power to unilaterally impose tariffs of unlimited amount, duration, and scope. In light of the breadth, history, and constitutional context of that asserted authority, basically, Congress doesn't pass a law saying he can do it. He can't do it. In response, Donald Trump, live and on camera, seemed to go about the 7 stages of grief in front of an assembled press and obviously the world. First, shock, denial, anger, rage, really, at the Supreme Court.
Today, the United States Supreme Court delivered a major ruling that significantly shifts the political landscape. The decision challenges a key part of Donald Trump's economic policy and, in a rare move, places limits on presidential authority. The court ruled that the president does not have the power to impose tariffs on his own without approval from Congress. After the ruling, Trump appeared visibly shaken. His reaction seemed to move quickly from shock and denial to frustration and anger directed at the Supreme Court. Then, during an interview, he made a stunning comment. He suggested that the United States might not even need to hold the 2026 midterm elections. According to him, if things are going so well under his leadership, voting may not be necessary. It was an unusual and troubling remark about democracy, especially coming from a sitting president.
It took the form of a disgusting new line of attack on the 6 justices who ruled against him. Watch.
They're against anything that makes America strong, healthy, and great again. They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation, those justices. They're an automatic no matter how good a case you have. It's a no. But you can't knock their loyalty. It's one thing you can do with some of our people. Others think they're being politically correct.
Trump didn't stop there. He harshly criticized the 6 justices who ruled against him, calling them a disgrace and accusing them of opposing anything that would strengthen America. He claimed they would reject his cases no matter how strong they were. Then, in mid-January 2026, during another interview, Trump again praised his accomplishments in what he described as a highly successful second term. While speaking confidently about his achievements, he unexpectedly stated that perhaps the country should not even hold an election. The room reportedly fell silent. It was unclear whether he was joking, but he did not appear to be laughing. His team later claimed the remark was lighthearted and not meant to be taken seriously. However, the tension in the moment suggested otherwise. The reaction was immediate. Social media platforms lit up. Journalists described the comment as shocking. Legal experts quickly pointed out that canceling elections would directly violate the Constitution. Political analysts questioned whether Trump understood the implications of what he said. Many ordinary citizens simply asked, can a president actually cancel elections? The answer is no. The Constitution mandates regular elections, and a president does not have the authority to cancel them. Election law falls under Congress, and states administer the process. However, the concern lies in the fact that the idea was raised at all. Even if it cannot legally happen, casually suggesting it introduces a dangerous concept into public discourse. The White House moved quickly to clarify. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stated that the president was joking and that the comment should not be taken seriously. But critics argue that this pattern is familiar. Trump makes a controversial statement, and his team later describes it as humor. This is not an isolated incident. In 2020, Trump questioned the election results and did not commit to a peaceful transfer of power. On January 6th, he continued to dispute the outcome. Over the years, he has expressed admiration for strongman leaders and frustration with the limits imposed by Congress, the courts, and the press. Democracy is intentionally slow and structured with checks and balances. Elections are not optional, they are foundational. When a president suggests skipping them, even casually, it raises serious concerns. Whether intended as a joke or not, such remarks test the boundaries of acceptable political rhetoric. Over time, repeated statements like these can normalize ideas that were once considered unthinkable. That is why many observers argue this moment matters. It is not just about one comment. It is about a broader pattern and what it signals about respect for democratic institutions. Imagine if any other president from either party had made a statement like this. It would have caused a massive political scandal. If Barack Obama had joked about canceling the 2014 midterm elections, Republicans would have erupted in outrage. If George W. Bush had suggested skipping an election, Democrats would likely have called for impeachment. But when Donald Trump says something similar, it's often dismissed as just Trump being Trump. That normalization of extreme rhetoric is dangerous. Democracies rarely collapse through sudden coups or military takeovers. More often, they erode gradually, through repeated comments and small boundary-pushing moments that slowly make the unthinkable seem acceptable. What makes this situation even more serious is the timing. The remark came in January 2026, with the midterm elections scheduled for November, less than a year away. This is a major national election that could determine control of Congress. And yet the sitting president casually floated the idea that perhaps elections aren't necessary. Even if framed as a joke, the impact matters. What does that do to voter confidence? How does it affect election workers who are already facing harassment and threats? What message does it send to state officials working to protect the integrity of the electoral process? When a president suggests elections might not matter, it creates uncertainty. And uncertainty is toxic to democracy. The response from his team arguably makes things worse. When aides dismiss such remarks as jokes, it sends the message that the president frequently says things he does not mean, and that the public must rely on staff members to interpret which statements are serious and which are not. That is not how stable leadership works. Citizens should not have to wait for press secretaries or advisors to decode the president's words. When he talks about withholding funding from states, criticizing judges, or invoking emergency powers, people should not be left wondering whether it is policy or performance. Running a country requires clarity. Constant ambiguity creates instability. And let's be honest, his team calls it a joke not because it is funny, but because they recognize how damaging it sounds. A president implying that elections might be unnecessary is politically explosive. So they rush to contain the fallout until the next controversial statement triggers another round of damage control. Over time, people may stop believing the cleanup efforts. If the same kinds of statements keep appearing, some will begin to question whether they are truly jokes at all. This remark does not exist in isolation. It fits into a broader pattern. For years, Trump has tested democratic norms, questioning election results, challenging the independence of the Justice Department, pressuring institutions, and refusing at times to commit to a peaceful transfer of power. He repeatedly claimed the 2020 election was stolen without providing evidence. After returning to office, he pardoned individuals connected to January 6th, criticized judges who ruled against him, and expressed admiration for leaders who govern without democratic constraints. Now he is openly suggesting that elections themselves might be optional. Supporters argue that he is trolling or provoking critics. But at some point, rhetoric matters. History shows that authoritarian leaders often begin by testing language, introducing extreme ideas gradually to see how the public reacts. This does not mean that elections are about to be canceled, but when a sitting president,